So we'll start with public information from the board.
On board?
Yeah, well, we'll start with the board and then
We'll go to.
go to them.
I was gonna add that people should keep an eye on ballots. Voting is pending. We have a ballot question for Barnstable County, number 6. And I should have more information about it. If you'd like more information about it, you can contact me, or Terry Gallagher is our Assembly of Delegates representative, and he could probably explain it much better than I can. But I wanted to put it on people's radar that
There will be.
there will be an extra ballot question for Barnstable County when you get your ballots.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? You do? Oh,
Yeah, I just.
okay.
just-
All right,
no, I-
we'll move.
I want to say one
Oh, you want to say one thing?
thing, yeah.
Okay, sorry.
We all had the pleasure of receiving our tax bills recently, and I just thought it would be worthwhile to give a brief explanation of some of the reasons why the costs went up as much as they did. On a normal operating budget for the town, under Proposition 2.5, which we stayed there, plus what we assumed would be the education, it was about on a median home, it was about $160 increase in taxes. But then the town's approved debt service exclusion, we had about $450 increase. That included water, wastewater, and Nauset Regional High School, which we passed. Then, of course, we had 2 overrides that the town agreed to, one being the dramatic increase in Nauset Regional Schools and Cape Cod Tech for more students from Eastham, and also the significant increase in special needs at the elementary school, and that was cost about $150 per the median home. And new police officers, which we agreed to, about another $40. And then we use non-property taxes to reduce the tax bill, about $125. So that came out to $675 increase for the median home, and that's what we saw in the mail, and that's there. A lot of it was through many things that the town approved, the town meeting, and voted on. So just to explain that, so you just didn't look at the numbers and be totally shocked. There's some of the reason for it. Thank you.
And Rich is going to post that information in the
Okay.
memo on the town website, so people can
Great.
see
Thank you.
the breakdown. We have our fire chief here tonight, Lisa Albino, and she's here to introduce our new deputy chief.
I am, and I'd like to thank the board, for all their support, in the last month since I've taken over as, fire chief, and especially for coming to the ceremony. I was quite overwhelmed that day. I was not expecting that many people, but if I didn't get a chance to see you and thank you for coming to the ceremony. With my promotion, that left the deputy's position open. We did do an extensive search. We did an internal, external, search. And it was a series of interviews we had. Our first interview actually took place before, I was promoted, and then, after that, we had our second round, of which we brought 3, people that we thought would be great candidates. And the gentleman to my left is our new deputy. He is Deputy Fire Chief Eric Littman. Eric comes to us, he was originally on the Cape. I actually taught him in paramedic school in 1994.
When
Eric
he was
started-
12 and you were 12.
Eric started with the Katuitt Fire Department and was a firefighter paramedic, was there for 4 years. And then in 1998, he moved out to Las Vegas and rose through the ranks with the Las Vegas Fire Department. When he retired from there, he was a captain on a very busy engine company. He was also a captain of training. So he comes with an extensive training background, which I feel is gonna really help our firefighters next door. When he retired from Las Vegas, he went to Medfield Fire Department, which he was there until January of '24, where he then went to the state and worked as the director of the Fire Academy, the Massachusetts Fire Academy, and he then came to us this month. We're very happy to have Deputy Lippman with us. He has already, moved into town. He found a winter rental, so he's all in, and he and his wife are looking to become part of the community here in Eastham, and this is Deputy Chief Lippman.
Welcome, Eric.
Welcome.
Thank you so
Same here.
much.
Woohoo.
I'm honored and humbled to have been selected through the process, and all I can hope for is to support Chief Albino, the department, and be able to share my experience and my knowledge and my passion for the fire service that hasn't left me from the day I was appointed. And just super excited to be here. Hopefully, we just got some offers on our house, so hopefully that works out well, and we'll start looking very, very soon for a residence in Eastham. So I'm honored to be here, and I really appreciate Chief Albino and everybody that was involved in the process, and having the faith and confidence in my abilities and my skills that I can bring to the Eastham Fire Department. I'm super proud to be here. So thank you.
Again, welcome.
And just to give you a little bit of an update, we'll be having 2 new firefighters starting, hopefully next week, on Tuesday, next Tuesday. They're going through all their pre-employment stuff, their PAT, but we hope to have them starting their orientation next Tuesday, and then towards the end of the month, we're gonna look at doing a swearing-in badge ceremony for all 3 employees. So I will make sure that the select board knows about that.
Thank you.
So that you will be invited.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Moving forward.
All
We're
right.
excited.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other public information of anything that's not on the agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the housing workshop. Paul Lagg.
And Rachel Butler.
What? Oh, and Rachel Butler, our housing coordinator. So Paul, I hear you. Just on a brief note, you were in North Carolina during the storm.
Yeah.
A little
Do you
frightening.
Have the trust come up with Rachel?
How many do we have? Sure, we just have 2,
Yeah.
Carolyn and Elaine. I'm technically a part, but since I'm up here, you probably don't have to call to order your side. There's only 2 of them, right? Yeah. What? 5. But I'm not
Did post.
sitting part of this. Yes. No. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. Here to talk with the board and trust about an update on housing. Have a
Lot of information to get through. You had some in your packet, but I'll try to go through. I'll start at the beginning, and when I get to the end, I'll stop and I'll try to go through as succinctly as possible. So we have plenty of time to circle back and go over the details. So just going to overview of programs, current potential new programs, what's going on with our various projects, and then obviously that leads into discussions on funding options, and really looking for a discussion with these with the boards, and really to get guidance and feedback on how the board feels they want to prioritize and move forward. So just as a reminder for everybody, we do have a community housing plan, and this was put together for the FY, as part of the FY 23 budget. I'm happy to report that, you know, we are planning the work and we're working the plan, and we have completed a number of important items. Pretty much everything that we outlined in the plan has been completed or in progress in one form or another. But I think the most important part, I think, was when we put this plan together, you know, Jackie put the plan together and it really helped focus the attention on housing and really help better coordinate, at least on the staff level, how we're looking at this. So, you know, the town manager, finance department, my department, housing, and the housing trust, a lot more consolidated and coordinated over the past few years. And that's what's led to, you know, the progress we have made. So that was a big step forward in how we kind of looked at things comprehensively. So programs. As I mentioned, we do have a community housing plan. That plan outlined a number of programs and initiatives. As part of that FY 23 budget, we had outlined some funding sources, which came from free cash from the Article 4 of that town meeting, which was approved. And basically, this slide is really just outlining that the programs we had put together and what we had earmarked for potential funding, at least startup funding for each program. So some money has been spent, but there's still a lot of it is still there. So there is flexibility. And, you know, again, tonight's discussion and going forward, there is flexibility in how we want to talk about funding, if we want to keep things where they are or start to move some things around based on priorities. And that was $900,000, which was the Article 4 funds. So we're currently running two housing programs, the rental assistance program and the emergency housing emergency loan program, the HELP program. These have been pretty solid programs for us. We've been running them both for over 12 years. Rental assistance basically provides a monthly subsidy to income qualifying applicants, helps them with the gap funding to meet their monthly rent. There is a case management and a financial planning assistance component, which is a key piece of that. So to help folks get themselves in order. So when they kind of graduate out of it's a 3-year program. So when the 3 years runs their course or sooner, they have more solid financial footing to graduate out of the program. And same thing with the emergency loan program, forgivable loans to help with major repairs to housing. And that's key for us. Again, these two programs really focus on, you know, rental housing, which is the single biggest need we have. And then the home ownership piece, keeping people in homes, making sure they're safe. So again, these programs have been effective. As part of the housing plan, one of the initiatives was to try to increase enrollment in those programs and increase the funding limits, which we have. So we did put town funds. These programs have been primarily funded through CPA funding. So there is a limit to eligibility for the affordability levels, but we did put town funds through the Article 4 money so that we can increase that to take care of folks that were above the 100% AMI. So really the goal going forward is to make sure we maximize the enrollment in those. And we've been working with our regional housing partners to try to make sure the word's out on these programs. So potential new housing programs, and there's a few of them, and I'm just going to go through kind of very briefly, high level overview. So Lease to Locals is a program we've been looking at. Basically provides cash incentives to property owners to convert their housing into year-round rentals. So this is a program that it could bring in new rentals, but it also could be a key program to help win back some of the rentals we've lost to the short-term market. Try to level the playing field and provide an incentive, a financial incentive to lure folks back to start renting year-round again. So again, it could work well with existing properties. It could work well with single-family homes, with ADUs. And this could actually play into some of the other programs that we want to do, like the ADU assistance program, which I'll talk about in a minute. Again, housing plan, we did earmark some funds that could be used for potentially for starting up a pilot program. We've been looking at other applications of this. Provincetown has had a good success with their year one pilot program. They actually created 19 units. Nantucket, similar program, they created 22 units, and they actually have a waiting list of property owners who want to sign on to the program. So that's encouraging. So we are looking at this to see, we're talking with software company that administers the program for those two towns, seeing how it could work for Eastham. We're talking with Orleans to see, we think this could be a good match for intertown partnership to maximize the program. Also, it would help us possibly cut down on the administrative costs to run the program. So we're in the midst of discussions with Orleans on that and looking at what the program guidelines would be. And that would be something to bring back to the board as a follow-up to see really how that program would flesh out. The ADU assistance program, again, identified in the housing plan. This would be a program that would provide pre-development funds for folks that are looking to create an ADU, pre-development funds, and also post-development. So we've had some pretty good success with the ADU bylaw that we overhauled a few years ago. We have permitted a number of ADUs, which is great. Have encountered a lot of folks that want to do the ADU. They have the septic capacity, they have the land for it, but they just run into financing problems. So again, this would be assistance up front. You need a septic plan, you need some building plans, whatever it might be, a site plan, funding up front, and then if you complete the ADU and you are agreeing to deed restrict it for a year on rental, it would be a post assistance to defray the development cost. And then this program, again, some earmarked money for a startup program. We're looking at developing some guidelines, and we have some draft guidelines, and potentially could roll this out for 2025. Nice tie-in to this is that the Cape Cod Commission is working on a program that will provide basically pre-approved housing plans, basically be free plans that are architectural plans that meet building code, energy code, everything. So they basically be made free. The towns could basically adopt them, and we could have a scenario where the planning board kind of vets them, so that it potentially streamlines the regulatory process if you do have to go through the boards, but also one less component you have
Right,
to apply for. So that'd be a great tie-in with this program.
So just can I ask a quick question about the pre-development funds? Is that tied to a deed restriction or only the other ones, only the post-development?
I don't know,
think so.
Rachel, I don't know if how we,
Be a grant,
Okay,
no deed restriction.
okay. Only if you really take money for construction.
So our get back is the plans that they might get from septic planning, site plans for community development department to use in the future if they needed them.
So the town will retain.
yeah.
Oh,
Gotcha.
So then we would, and that information is, important for our wastewater planning and for, future land use development. So we know what capacity those properties would have.
Okay.
Sorry, Jamie.
Is there any restriction for the applicant for this program as far as AMI goes?
For the ADU assistance?
Yeah.
No, we're trying to make it so there isn't. It depends on the funding source. So if we use town funds, it can be basically open-ended, but if there were folks that wanted to put a affordability restriction on it,
Mhm.
we could tap into housing trust or CPA fund.
Oh, but if we put a restriction on the ADU?
Right.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah, so the restriction would be, we want the year-round rental,
Right.
but if they're willing to do an affordability restriction,
piece two.
you
then
could, you could
tap
tap
on
into
different
some other
funds, yeah.
CPA funds.
Oh,
housing
okay.
trust.
But then that's on the deed.
Right.
so-
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Great.
Next program is the affordable housing tax exemption. So this is a new legislative tool that the state put into place. It is available. I think a few other towns have started with it. It basically would allow a property tax exemption to owners that are willing to rent year round at affordable rates. it is available to implement, although I think, and Rich will be able to speak more to this point on the follow-up, but I think there are some questions still need to be evaluated as to how it would fit for Eastham. Just on the staff level, we've talked through, we think maybe this isn't the best program for Eastham now. I'll circle back to this when we get to the recommendations, but it basically, it's another tool in the housing toolbox that may or may not be a good fit at this point.
Paul, I'll just speak to it quickly now. So Provincetown and I believe Wellfleet have something similar, but it's special legislation approved many years ago, which affords them a lot of flexibility. There was a lot of promise and hope that this new legislation would be a lot of flexibility locally for you to decide how you want to run it. And so that's why originally I promoted it as an opportunity. But then following through with Department of Revenue attorneys, it turns out that a lot of that flexibility really isn't what we need it to be. And so this probably, if you were to adopt it, would represent an outlay of money that would be helpful longer term, perhaps for people that are doing rentals, but it's not going to be creating any new rentals right now, and that is our priority. So, and there'd be, the large developments in town would get an outsized benefit from participating in this type of exemption. So we theoretically could be spending a lot of money and not getting any new units.
Gotcha.
Thanks, Rich. Next program is called Rooted Renters, and this is kind of a companion piece in some ways to the Lease to Locals program. So it would, again, like Lease to Locals, provide a financial incentive to owners that would be renting year round, but this would be targeted to the folks that are already renting year round to kind of bring them into the equation. Again, I'm sorry, did you want to?
Just wanted to add to that, the rooted renters, another component of that is if we wanted to do this is to do a long-term rent and require 2 or 3 years so that somebody isn't displaced or after a year. So it would be, it could work with the Lease to Locals and ADU and potentially funds for a long-term rental after that.
And with this, if they're offering below market rates, they would be eligible for maybe some trust money,
Yes,
Also,
for rental assistance.
but it wouldn't deed restrict anything.
No.
It's interesting.
It's really kind of the
Yeah.
alternative to the affordable housing tax exemption, which has some prescribed methodologies, whereas the rooted renters is pretty much the same thing, but we get to target it to where we want.
Yeah.
And it goes hand in hand with the Lease to Locals, where Lease to Locals creates new units only. And then the rooted renters comes along after the fact to hopefully keep them that way and keep incentivizing.
Do we have an understanding of how many people are renting below the market rate currently?
No.
It says
Yeah, they have.
who
to be
offer
below.
below market rate rental housing.
Probably 0.
No, they
I-
would, the rent would have to be a below market rate rent in order to qualify for this program.
So how do you determine market rate?
No, I was just asking if we have any of those existing in Eastham currently, or if we know that or
Okay,
not.
I don't know that.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
I know of at least one. A local person who created an ADU and is intentionally below market rate renting it because they felt like that was the right thing to do.
Mhm.
So I know of one.
There's one.
Okay.
Okay.
And I guess I'd just add, Paul, since that's a local program, we get to decide, unlike the housing tax exemption.
Right.
So right here, we're contemplating below market rate, but if we're using local dollars,
We can set
we
that rate.
determine those regulations through the select board and the housing trust.
Well, local market rate is determined by HUD.
Well, there's
Alex.
affordability guidelines for affordable housing.
Right.
So we could use them as a guideline.
But local
we're
market
not
rate in
required.
general is determined by the market.
Right. It's just HUD has some ways of doing some calculations. So we can't just We don't just make it up out
Right,
of
right.
the air, kind of. Yeah.
All right. The other program is deed restriction for year-round workers. I know we talked about this a couple years ago initially. Program modeled after similar ones that are taking place in out in Vail, Colorado, a few other places across the country. Basically, program would allow a town or a county, depending on how it's rolled out, to purchase deed restrictions from homeowners. And then that would allow us to permanently limit occupancy to make sure that it's for employees of the local town or county. This Community Development Partnership, CDP, is in the midst of doing an analysis to see if how this would work as a model for the Outer Cape, see if it could be a regional model. We anticipate there'll be a report on that forthcoming fairly soon, so.
Yeah, their last workshop on it was in April. And when I contacted Andrea recently, she said they should have something out by October. So right about now, they should be.
Have you heard any like ballpark figures of maybe what a deed restriction would cost to purchase from?
Well, we can send out before our next meeting, we can send out the April snapshot, but I don't know if that'll come through in the final recommendations, which is what the consultant is working on now.
And is that something that would be to existing homeowners? So it wouldn't be in like a transfer. So if you owned your home and you wanted
Yes.
$200,000 or whatever to have, but it would then make your house deed restricted when it goes to sale. I mean,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, so it's an interesting program. We're just waiting for more info about how viable it would be for
I
the
had-
Outer Cape.
I had thought about it in when properties transfer, like when there's a sale, if the
Mhm.
town could have a program that offered to purchase a deed restriction for it, which is whatever, 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
So the last two programs, housing buy down program and a mortgage down payment, these are kind of two, classic housing assistance programs. Again, included in the housing plan, some funding potentially earmarked out of the Article 4 money that could be used to start up the program. We've looked at this over the years. The Housing Trust has looked at this. We have not decided to move forward on it. Just basically, just the escalation of the housing market coming out of COVID. It just seemed to make this not viable for the amount of money we'd have to put into it. The return on, the amount of units we could do just didn't seem to make a good fit at this point in time. Although, like I said, they're great programs. It's just the timing doesn't seem to be right with where we are. And in fact, Rachel was talking with Wellfleet has a similar program, and they found that they just had to release, they weren't able to make much of a dent. And, obviously every one you create is a great success story, but just the use of funds doesn't seem to pan out. So I think they've kind of scaled back their
Yeah,
program.
so post-COVID, Wellfleet increased their amount to 175,000 and found that wasn't enough. And so they haven't gone really forward with the program at this time.
Although, what part of one of the other members of the trust who's not here tonight? Oh, you are, okay.
Which actually now that you have 3, you should call your meeting to
Yes.
your board to order, because I'm sitting up here, so I'm not really part of you right
Okay,
now.
Jeff,
but-
come and sit up and we'll declare this an official meeting, right? So I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Eastham Affordable Housing Trust. The meeting's being recorded. It will be available on the town's website at eastham-ma.gov and it's also on Channel 8. One of the things we talked about at one of our recent meetings is that as interest rates start to fall, then that might make the housing buy down program and the rental assistance program
More.
available, helpful for families who are right on the edge of affordability. So not housing trust money, because that's, the AMI is too low. But for that workforce housing folks, there might be opportunities as interest rates start to come down. So we're trying to kind of keep a pulse on that and watch for that. I know Jeff has talked about that there are sometimes families that little, not little, but large bit would make a difference. And to spend $150,000 or $200,000 on a deed restricted property versus $600,000
Uh-huh.
build a property.
Right.
It starts to be a trade-off that's worth keeping our finger and pulse on to watch for.
The unit cost,
Turn the mic so they can hear you.
Yeah. So it does seem that, if we could make the logistics of the deed restriction work, and I think there are plenty of candidates and buyers who would be quite happy to have a deed restriction and, you know, accept whatever equity would come their way over the course of time. In terms of the creation of a unit of affordable housing, it seems, even if it had to be something on the order of 150 to 200,000 to sort of qualify someone for that sweet spot whereby two or a local family could qualify from an income standpoint. In terms of the creation of a unit and then not having to keep the unit in the program and keep it managed with our resources in terms of town government, I think there's a very good argument for both the viability and the economic feasibility of creating affordable housing that way. So that's something I do kind of feel strongly about.
Do you want comments now? Can I make a comment? No comments.
I'd rather get through the
Okay, the
presentation
whole
and
thing.
then talk
Okay,
about it when
yeah.
we're talking about pros and cons.
Okay, okay, sure. I'm
Sorry, I don't mean to.
oh, no, that's fine. But I didn't know we were gonna do questions as we moved through this.
Sorry.
So can I go back to the beginning and ask a
Oh, no,
question?
they're saying at the end, we're doing questions.
We just did questions
know,
as
but
we
Yeah, we're
went.
gonna-
Yeah, but
I shouldn't have.
right now it's
Okay,
kind of
okay,
slowing
okay,
down, and
okay,
I
okay.
think
We
we
won't do
need to
questions as we
get
go.
through the
Okay.
presentation and then go
Go
through
back and ask
what
questions.
options. you got.
sorry, yeah, I should have made that clear. So
Okay.
Which is, every single one of these has great potential, but we have no funding source for any of them.
Mhm.
So
Right.
that, we
That
have to
affects-
think about that as we go along. We only have $450,000 at this moment.
all right, so that rounds out the overview of the programs. I just want to transition over to overview of what's going on with housing projects. So we have 580 Massasoit Road. This was a strategic purchase in 2022. It allowed us to take control of this property. It's historic property. It's iconic property in town. So it really did two things: allowed us to keep the integrity of that historic property for community character purposes, but it also allowed us to retain, there's an existing rental unit on the second floor, so we would retain an existing unit, and also the third floor has potential to bring onto it as an additional new unit. So we did receive CPA funds last year, so it's a historic rehab project combined with a housing development project. We have funding to get started with the refit of the exterior for historic. We've conducted a building code analysis. We have architecturals done for the first and second floor, some cost estimates, and like I said, some CPA funding to get us started. We need to do some further evaluation on the third floor build out, and we would be looking to get some supplemental CPA funds to finish out the funding to move forward with that. So we are looking to get some bid specifications adequate to go out to bid, get some real cost estimates that would inform the next round of CPA funding. Salt Pond condos, also the Del Gizzi properties, which you are familiar with. Again, a strategic acquisition, and we're pursuing. The town currently owns, so there's two buildings, 2 duplex units, 4 units total. The town owns half of each building. So we own 1 unit in each building. This is in my opinion, a very strategic property to acquire, and it has the potential for multiple units. If we could get control of the whole property and look strategically at how the units are used, how the interiors are laid out. And so there's a potential to add units here. It's also very strategic for our wastewater. It'd be a location to site a sewer pump station as part of the wastewater infrastructure, and also an area where we would look to do stormwater mitigation, which is critical for the salt pond, which is right across the street. So again, this is kind of a really strategic property that will serve a number of purposes. So we've completed so really where we're going with this is how do we get possession of the entire property so that we can move things forward. So we've completed a property appraisal and a title search. Obviously ongoing, town staff is doing, let's say, a heroic job at maintaining the units and keeping things afloat over there until we can really get control of the whole thing and do what's needed and take a comprehensive approach. But really the big thing is just acquisition of the remaining units, and we would be looking to take steps towards that for town meeting this coming May. And again, that'll set the stage for how do we really utilize the maximum potential for this property. 2555 State Highway, which is the Beach Bum Motel right across the street from us here at Town Hall. Again, another strategic purchase, similar to Massasoit. The front building there is a historic house. So we're able to retain control of the property, preserve that historic house, which also gave us a year-round rental. It's currently occupied. It also provides an opportunity to convert the motel units in the back to new rental units. And we're doing that through the new motel hotel conversion zoning bylaw that we passed a couple of years ago. That's the mechanism that allows for this to happen. So we've done some work here. The site has a brand new innovative alternative septic system. We've completed a preliminary design. So we contracted with a local architect. We have preliminary designs for some new units that could be in the back. What you're looking at on the side of the screen are some renderings, and I have a couple of more visuals on the next slide, but there's basically 2 options, different configurations. There's a one building configuration and a 2 building configuration. Really discussions need to be had on the affordability. So if we move forward this, what's the affordability level for those units? Is it going to be, workforce attainable or more deed restricted housing? Obviously the funding source preliminary estimates to do the construction on this is coming in at about 2.5 million. And again, as we talk about a lot of the properties that we have, the bigger questions about what do we do? Do we keep them? Do we redevelop them on our own? Do we partner with somebody? Do we retain them? Do we try to sell them and make sure we have the proper controls in place? So all these things are kind of on the table for discussion. Looking towards the next steps. So we would need to identify funding to do the full design plans if we do move forward with these housing options. We would look to bring the final designs back to the select board, and we can get some preliminary feedback from the board tonight if you choose. And obviously meeting with the abutters is an important piece of that. And then just from a regulatory standpoint, this would require a special permit through the zoning board of appeals to complete the conversion from the motel use back to a residential use. So we've kind of just take a quick pause to show you. So we have option A and option B, and these are some renderings. Option A is basically, what's this point, is that a pointer on it? Yeah. I don't know if that's showing up, but what you're looking on the top, top left is, that's the existing house that you can see from the road. And this option would be for one new building that would be in the back, basically where roughly the same footprint where the motel units are. And this would provide us with 2 studio apartments and 2 one-bedroom apartments that would basically be fitting in the footprint where the motel units are. And I think the architect's done a nice job at trying to blend in the site, make it match with the existing architecture. Option B is a 2-building option. Again, this would give us a smaller cottage that would be sited in front, kind of slightly in front of the existing house, and then another building in the back. And this would provide us with 2 studios and then 2 one-bedroom apartments. And again, this all fits in with the septic capacity, and we think both options fit nicely into the site, could integrate well. But really at this point, staff's been evaluating, but obviously we want to get feedback from the board and kind of move forward when the time comes on how you want to move forward with this. But so that just gives you a little preview of what the visuals might be. So other items, wanted to try to weave in some other things that are related to housing in general. And I know, Jack, you wanted to make some comments about how the Village Center Master Plan and Tea Time kind of weave into this.
So basically, I just wanted to add Tea Time in Town Center Plaza are hopefully larger housing developments of new units into this mix and talk about obviously what's been completed, what's in progress, and looks like the form-based code zoning hopefully is moving forward for May town meeting. The financial analysis, we have a draft of that Paul is working with the consultants to make final and bring to you. We are in process of integrating wastewater plans into the future capacity and decisions about this, and working with the DOT to address the traffic issues. So our next step would be obviously public discussions with you after all the analysis are completed and the zoning is complete, and we now have some answers on the wastewater side as well. So that would be good. And then to generate requests for proposals for development. And at our last meeting on the master plan, Bob had asked, if wastewater doesn't pass, can we still develop housing at Tea Time in Town Center Plaza? And Hillary and I went through each site plan. We looked at the site plan for the original Stratford development. We looked at the current zoning. We looked at the potential zoning. And so the answer is yes, but what Hillary would recommend is a package treatment plant that would connect both the sites, because Town Center Plaza is highly limited on what we could do without wastewater. So we'd have to do the package treatment plant, and the development of that would be very similar to the development of our wastewater plant. So we would have to have, design and engineering, then we'd have to take easements, and then we'd have to, build something. And I'm not sure it's possible that we could do all of that, say, within 2 years. And so if wastewater doesn't pass, we could take money and put it into that. But I wouldn't recommend you, nor would she, doing that until we know about wastewater, because right now we could connect the whole parcel to the wastewater system, and that would be the simplest way to go. And honestly, we think the most cost-effective over time, because having two septic treatment plants to manage is going to be much more difficult than just one. So But the short answer is yes, we can do it without wastewater. It will require another engineering process to create wastewater in that area. And part of the reason why, I know none of this makes sense to people because we want, and I do too, we want things to be easy and simple, and they're not. And they're just not. And the whole tea time site is in the zone 2 for our public water system. So to do septic in the zone 2 of a public water system adds a whole level of treatment, and a level of treatment means a level of expense. So we just have to keep that in mind when it's the reason why it's not the recharge area for our wastewater treatment. But I wanted to answer that question for you, Bob, because I think it's an excellent one, and I know it's one that the community will ask. And so the answer is yes, but it would require another process that is not necessarily going to be less expensive.
One follow-up on that, or do you want to keep going?
Um,
I ask about
a quickie? We can keep going.
Go ahead.
I'll just keep going. So that's it. That's all I wanted to just bring to you tonight. Because of course, we're going to be back. We can't do this in one night. It's clear, so. Back to you, Paul.
All right, thank you. So kind of hovering above all of this is the new state legislation, the Affordable Homes Act, which went into effect in August. There's a lot of potential here. There's a lot of funding. There's a lot of policies. There's a lot of good stuff. Like I said, there's a lot of potential, but in my opinion, there's also more questions and answers at this point.
Right now.
So, and a few months ago, I think the last housing update we did, I had a chart that kind of went through, here's our housing plan, here's where you think things might, this program could be used to bolster this and that. I think all of that still applies, but we just still need the details about how the money would flow, what the mechanisms would be, and so forth. So we are hopeful that details will be provided by the state. I know that they are planning to, well, I guess I'll say, at this point, I think for us, the two big things are in this act, in this legislation, it creates this seasonal communities designation. And at this point, based on what we understand, Eastham would automatically qualify as this. And that opens up some of these tools, some of these policies and potential funding, which could be key for us. We just need to have more details. And I believe the state is going to be having some help documents and some workshops in December, I think. Is that right, Rachel? As far as we know?
Yeah, some guidelines and guidance will be coming out by December 15th.
Right. So that'll help us get a better handle on it. But like right now, we're just kind of trying to monitor as best we can and get information. There's been a lot of workshops. Rachel sat in on a lot of meetings, a lot of workshops. The state's having them, HAC's having them, all the different, and then
We're going to one next week.
we're going to one next week. So not all the information has been the same. So depending on what you're hearing from time to time, it's different. So I guess we'll just leave it at there's a lot of potential. We just need to figure out how we would be able to plug into it. But I do think everything we've talked about, all these programs, I think there's a place for them.
Yeah.
It will align somehow, some way with what the state is doing. So seasonal communities will be huge for us. The other big takeaway, I think at this point, is just there is some zoning items that we will need to address locally to make sure that we are in alignment with what the state has done. Notably, we'll need to do some kind of housekeeping items with our accessory dwelling unit bylaw. I think we're in good shape generally, but there's just some details that we need to make sure, definitions and things of that sort. So that will be on the list for May town meeting as well. Some other items. Want to give you an update on some things that we've been working on, particularly Rachel. She's been working very hard on creating a draft affirmative fair housing marketing plan. And this is basically a guideline or a plan that guides how we address renting up new units in the future. They come online. And I guess, Rach, do you want to just give an
Sure.
overview or?
Yeah, you pretty much covered it. It gives us guidance, so we have a transparent process on how we select new tenants, utilizing a lottery process. It is consistent with state guidelines for affordable housing. It can't really be finalized until we have specifics such as unit details and pricing and affordability levels.
Are there just,
So this comes in, sorry.
just a quick question, but I know a lot of people talk about local, local options for
Local
local
preference.
preference, that's it.
Yeah, this isn't, that local preference is for bigger developments. I don't know that that will come into play here. But
This is for managing what we have or what we build.
Well, even
And
what
we're
we
talking
build, I
about
think people
three-
would like to see local people get
Yeah.
some sort of preference in. No?
It's not legal, unfortunately.
yeah, that's
No.
something we can get some legal guidance on. I think Martha's Vineyard tried to do this as well. I'm trying to get some answers as to how that ended up with them, but it is a fair housing issue.
Even
So-
though it's a town-owned.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah. So we're
Yep.
looking for more guidance on that.
Yeah.
I mean, we can play with the affordability piece, the rent piece, that,
Yeah,
yeah, but you can't decide you're going to give preference to,
people that live in the town where the property is.
Although
Makes sense.
Although there is.
you'd have
there is
first
a
dibs
piece-
at the lottery. I mean, you'd be here, you'd get the info, you'd.
Right, but once the lottery ends and then there's turnover, it's gone.
No. We would continue to
do the
do, this
lottery.
is the
Okay.
process that we'll use
No, a
every
lot-
time there's an
A
opening.
lottery would establish a wait list. So you could do a wait list from there. You don't have to do a lottery every
Oh,
single
okay.
time.
I'm sorry.
But the other piece of this is waiting for guidance from the state on one of the seasonal community pieces is allowing for municipal workers a preference.
Ah,
So
Okay.
there is that. I just don't know what that looks like at this time.
well, that makes me feel a little better.
I don't know.
New
yes,
firefighters or police
but-
officers or.
I mean, it's hard to prioritize a program that doesn't prioritize Eastham.
Well,
you
you
know what I
don't,
mean?
you don't have
Well,
to right now.
Yeah,
No one's asking you.
yeah,
to.
no, I know, yeah. Not to discredit all of the work that's been going into all of this
Sure.
at all, because I know that it's all important and it all has a place.
Mhm.
Just to advocate for the residents in town,
And it's really to advocate for the region, Jamie,
Right.
really.
Yeah,
Well,
you're right. It's not just,
It's
it's
not,
the outer.
if you were already a resident
Right.
in town, then you'd have a place to live and
Right.
you might not need most of these programs.
Well, and I think that's where the seasonal communities designation comes
will
in
help
too. Is
correct.
that this, they recognize that this is an issue for us. So they want to just put something in place that addresses that.
Right.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, yeah.
So ongoing, I mentioned earlier, just the property management and maintenance, again, a big piece of what Rachel's been doing is really, we need to manage the properties we have. That's working with the tenants, coordinating maintenance with our in-house staff. And so I think we've been doing an outstanding job with the resources we have. And again, knowing that some of these properties have some issues, and until we kind of figure out the full plan, what we're going to do forward, things will come into place. So we've been doing a great job, I think, keeping things together. And again, this goes back to the bigger picture of a more comprehensive way of doing this, doing these things. So, Jackie, myself, Rachel, Rich, we're meeting regularly, brainstorming, working through all these things, trying to coordinate coordinate these things. So that's ongoing. And then additional items, I know questions have arisen about tea time and the interim uses, and we can have discussion on that. Housing workshop, Rachel is working on trying to coordinate a workshop that we could have here in Eastham with the Massachusetts Housing Partnership, where we could talk about the fair housing laws, talk more about, get a better understanding of the lottery, why we need to do that, what the purpose is, how it works, what we can and can't do as far as local preference. So we're trying to set that up really as soon as possible, but just depending on when we can get the folks from Mass Housing Partnership to.
Yeah, I think we're looking at early next year for that.
But that would be open to boards and committees and members of the public, and it will help us be able to walk through intelligently what we can and can't do
Right.
before we spend money.
And the last thing here is just the county has started a shared regional housing services pilot program that's being run through the County Human Services Department, and they've partnered with the consulting firm at Barrett Planning Group. This is basically an housing assistance program funded initially through ARPA. Year one, it's a 2-year program, 2-year pilot program. So year one was last year, and they were basically getting the framework in place for how this would work. But essentially, it provides consulting services to the towns and housing regional housing partners in the county office. It's a combination of things. So technical assistance, some legal question assistance, office hours if you need assistance, and then they're working on creating a database of housing information and stakeholder groups and things like that. So we're in year 2. And I believe that the county will be looking to the towns to see if this is something that they want to sustain and the funding source for that. I know Rachel sat in on a few meetings on this, and we have utilized, so I should mention, each town has a certain number of hours allotted, so we can use those for whatever we need to, and then you can kind of pay for additional assistance as needed. So right now, we're just in the pilot phase where we're using our allotted office hours, if you will, to get some technical assistance where needed on things related to the programs we've been talking about. So I don't know if there's did I hit everything on that? That's pretty much where we are.
The only thing I want to add is, as Paul said, they're going to be looking to the towns to see if they want to continue this program. So they're looking to do an intermunicipal agreement, and that's something they've been developing over the past year, I believe, as well. So I think there will be more to come on that.
All right, thank you. So just a couple more slides. Recommendations, kind of want to summarize what we've gone through here. So
Can I just do a
Oh, sure.
background frame for this? Okay, so what we're looking for is nothing permanent because we don't have continued funding for anything. What we're looking for right now is if we have, and we think we do, 450,000 or so to pilot 1, 2, 3, or 4 programs, which ones do you want to prioritize to pilot so that we can get the best bang for our buck and really test out a couple of things and see whether if they work, then we can ask town meeting for continued funding, or we can try and find a funding source for them somewhere else. But at least we'll know, like Provincetown can now say, we've created 19 new units of rental housing that's available now with this much money that we spent. So I think that's a really good data point. So anyway, that's what we're trying to set up for you tonight.
So basically, these are the recommendations based on our staff review. And again, this is up for discussion, and we want feedback from the board to see how we might proceed. So we think the Lease to Locals program is a great model. Again, it's got a track record so far of success with P-Town and Nantucket. It addresses the #1 housing need, which is the lack of year-round rentals. And there's opportunities to partner with Orleans, maybe make it a regional program. So we think that is a worthwhile effort to pilot. The ADU assistance program, again, this also addresses the number one need, year-round rentals. There's a lot of tie-ins, as I mentioned, with if we get the pre-approved plans, there will be some incentives built into the state housing regulations. And this, again, creates new units, smaller units. So we're trying to diversify the housing stock, which we need. So we need small units for downsizing and small units for folks to just get a foothold. So that would, we feel that's a viable program.
And in the state plan, there is money set aside for incentives for lower income households for
Yes.
ADUs, which I think will be a nice other option.
Again, rooted renters, we think is a viable program, maybe going into a secondary year after, if we were to do lease to locals and that was successful, that's something we think is viable and doable, just a matter of when we would phase it in. And just looking at the, kind of switching over to the projects, so Massasoit Road, we are, kind of underway. So we obviously feel we should continue with that program, that project, continue to investigate the funding and bring that to fruition and bring those two units, the rental units online. And I didn't mention this on the slide, but obviously the first floor is where the Friends of Eastham COA have their operation, which is, really vital component to the community and to the COA operation. So that was another reason we purchased that property to make sure they had a base of operations to continue. So obviously refitting this whole building, and part of that is refitting the first floor and making sure we can maximize the space that the Friends group has to work with. So we would recommend we do keep moving forward with that project. And again, the other two projects, as I mentioned, they're, we're kind of, the train has kind of left the station on them. We think those projects are worthwhile. We should continue on that. The tax exemption program, as Rich mentioned, not recommending that. And again, based on what Rich was explaining, we think that's not a great fit, and it would actually be counterproductive to if we were doing the lease to locals program. And then finally, the last three programs, again, I just kind of no real recommendations. Like we said, we're still mortgage and housing buy down. They're good programs, just not viable. Doesn't mean that we should abandon them, but maybe postpone, hold off on a while. Again, things may change, or depending on funding availability. And then finally, the deed restriction, we just need more information. So once we hear back from the CDP and what their findings are, we'll be able to have a better conversation on that.
And we love those programs. So it's not like we're saying we don't want to do them. It's what we're saying is we need a funding source for them. And when they kind of took out that transfer tax out of the housing bill, it eliminated some of the funding that we could have used for that. So we just have to find another funding source, and we will. It's just that right now, with just a little seed money, we can't justify those programs at the moment. And it's heartbreaking because we've had, I know in the past few years, we've had people ask for, that little bit that they needed for the down payment or that. So anyway.
So thank you all for your patience. That was a lot of content to get through. And basically, this point, kind of turn it over to discussion. Again, like Jackie said, we're kind of looking for feedback, guidance, what the board feels about these programs and projects. And we won't be able to get through everything tonight, but this is the first step, and we can then come back at a subsequent.
Right. So hopefully once we get a sense of where you guys are, we can come back to you with specifics, like working on eligibility and regulations and the amount of money we'd need for certain of these, but.
It's just shocking on this slide after the end about development costs.
We're throwing that in there because, it is just, it's shocking. And when you talk about, when we talk about $2.5 million for 5 units across the street, it's expensive, yes, but it's it's right up there with the, you know, the housing costs. It's just we don't have funding sources. But there is in the Affordable Housing Act, some specific money for smaller developments too. So, you know, we might want to just move some of these along and then pause. I know everyone hates to pause, but the programs, my intent was to get the programs out there so that you could have something that we're working on until we get some of the brick and mortar in place. Does that make sense? And get 20 new year-round rentals in the next year or two, then that would actually
That'd be a pretty
be
big-
awesome.
All right, we'll open up to the board. Questions? Comments?
Just make a comment. I think the recommendations are on the right track. I mean, the rental, creating more rental units year round. In the front of the stack and in the back is kind of purchasing, assistance with purchasing homes. I think that's kind of a good one to put on the back burner for now. But I like the way you've prioritized it.
Jerry?
Yeah, the recommendations, are they in your staff rank order?
Are they in your what?
Are they ranked?
Your
are they
rank
priority?
order. The
Oh.
priority order.
Not necessarily.
No.
It's,
They're not, okay, I was just asking whether, looking at this, whether there's
I
some,
think, the top two, we all agree the top two are really good viable options and we'd like to put some money.
right,
them.
you get a
Yeah.
rather quick bang. Now, what happens, the bottom three of your recommendations? The one
They're
that you're
just
saying,
waiting.
yes,
So,
that we've already,
oh.
we're on the
oh, oh.
road for those three already for Massasoit, Salt Pond and Beach Plum. I mean, is that, you're looking for guidance from us whether or not to say,
Yes,
put a pause on those because we would like to
Yes.
put the money elsewhere? Put the
well,
funds
no, there is
elsewhere?
no money elsewhere,
'Cause
so
it's,
Yeah.
because they came from, a lot of it came from CPA funds.
CPA funds. So basically, I think we'd like to test out our logic with you on Massasoit Road. So right now, we think we have enough money to do the external renovation and to do fire suppression. Fire suppression is essential to renting out those apartments. So we could just do that piece and then we'd have fire suppression, the thrift shop and one apartment. But as we were sitting talking about it as staff, that site is so tiny and just watching what happened with the town hall renovation, if we have to do the exterior and then come back in 2 or 3 years to do that top floor, does that make any sense? Doesn't it make sense to just
Do it all.
wait, go back to CPA, see if we can get some housing money to do that top floor apartment? And then, yes, that would delay us another season, but then we'd have it done and we'd have 2 units instead of 1.
Okay.
So that was our thinking, but again, you know, we're kind of in this now, so we wanted your thoughts at a different level, looking at it, because I know people are shocked at the price of it, but we did save a historic, we saved a historic structure, we upgraded it, and we're keeping it safe, and we're adding the fire suppression, and we're getting 2 housing units. And those will be affordable.
Right, now may I ask a question of affordable housing? Do
Sure.
we, what are the funds available, CPA funds available within for affordable housing to put into the 580 Massasoit Road, additional stuff for a third apartment on the 3rd floor? I mean, what are we looking at in a sense? My fear is, Carolyn, is that we go to CPA funds so often that suddenly there aren't any.
We don't have any money.
Well, first of all, I'm not on the CPA committee this year, so I know you're looking at me for an answer, but I think Rich is the one that knows the finances of and Paul of the CPA committee better.
Just You were always on, that's why I apologize when I was on it,
We-
but I'm not on it either any longer.
Elaine is currently on it.
Ah, there we go.
Okay, I understand. All right.
But we did use the CPA, the 740 for the historic rehab
We
already.
Correct.
That's
use
part of
historic,
it,
right, that's
but it'd
historic,
be
yeah,
roughly that much again.
Yes.
For housing,
for the housing, yes.
right?
Yeah.
So it's
For
a
2 units.
Yeah.
two,
For
right,
2 units.
which is,
That's still less than 5,000.
it's less, yes,
Unit, I mean. if you look
exactly.
at it.
And the CPA last year, and I think reading between the lines, Rich can correct, but it seems like the recommendation at the CPA will again be to fund whatever the projects are that come before the CPA and reserve the remaining chunk for housing.
Yeah, yes, I'm aware of that. yeah.
We are still saving up for
Right.
those big
Good
developments.
times, yeah. Okay,
Right. And CPA in its 5-year plan has decided to prioritize housing in general. So a
Right.
larger percentage of the
beyond the 10,
on
10, 10,
design-
10.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, will go towards housing just off the top anyways. So we put some mechanics and the CPA committee realized, it's housing. That's what's needed to address what's coming forward. So I
Right.
think we have some good mechanisms in place to prioritize housing.
And I guess, only thing I would add to all that discussion, which we haven't talked to the CPC about yet really, but it would, we have to have that discussion.
Right.
Given that you've got multiple projects and a need for ongoing funding for different things, which CPA could be a piece of that. Do you want to, we historically have paid cash for everything. You could also do bonds and use CPA funds to pay the debt service as well,
Right.
depending on the interest rate and the cost of borrowing and all that stuff. So
Now, would that, using bonds, et cetera, would that be a decision by the committee?
yes,
Not by- Okay. So, but for us, the idea would be, do we put in an application for it? Right, because this has to be, you put an application in the CP.
Right. That's the question tonight
But
or
do we
next.
put the application in for this? The third floor apartment, I mean, they get 2 apartments out of
Interior.
580.
So we can put in a placeholder application, just timing wise, we can put in a placeholder application, but what we're hoping to
Right.
is the timing worked out so we can actually put some bid specs out, get a real number for what it would be, then put that directly into the CPA. So we have,
Right.
real number, but so we have time to have this discussion, everything.
Now, any of the others, do we have CPA fund possibility in anything in the other 2? I mean, that depends on whether we keep them on affordable housing or not.
Well, I think the Salt Pond is going to, if we move forward with wastewater, moving forward with the Salt Pond condos gives us a pump station at the perfect elevation to serve a lot of the home. So we have a whole new little area right around Salt Pond that we can serve without grinder pumps and expensive other
Right.
treatments. So it's of good value for us. So we'll probably be asking for a taking, and that requires us to purchase the other 2 units, to assess them and purchase them. So there'll be a cost to that.
Would we buy the land then also?
We'll have
Yeah,
everything.
we'll have everything.
And that right now, I mean, we were gonna check, but my guess is we have at least 14 or 15 bedrooms on that site right now with the current septic system. If that had wastewater, that would be attractive to a developer because it could be a great mixed use housing development, and it has, those upper floors have views of Salt Pond.
Mhm.
It's beautiful up there.
Mixed income.
Yes, mixed income. Sorry.
Not mixed
Right.
use.
Yeah.
No retail in the.
No retail, mixed income.
But that, and that would be, not be CPA funds, that would be Eastham funds.
I don't,
Straight.
we
Probably
don't
do
know, and that
some-
would be
You don't know.
up to you guys, but what we were thinking is that site might be particularly attractive to a developer because they could get more units there. So it might be one of those 99-year leases where a developer would come in and do the site and we would just have to decide on the income.
Yeah, not unlike if you read in the paper what Orleans is doing at the old motel.
Governor Prince.
Governor Prince Motel,
Yes.
where they're doing mixed incomes. So some are going to be affordable, some are going to be workforce, some are going to be home ownership
Yeah.
opportunities. And they're mixing it all together to create a small little community that has some diversity to it. And
Yeah.
some of that's going to be through the developers, some of it will be the affordable ones probably will have some tax credit stuff with it. So there's a
And I
whole
think-
diversity of funding that's possible, including CPA funding.
Yeah, and it would be a great site for that. I really think we could
But
probably.
first we need to own it.
But I think the ownership,
Right.
The
the
owner
bottom
gotta
line
be
is
big.
owning it is
Gotta buy
gonna
it.
be a bond to purchase through
Yes.
the
Bond
tax,
purchase on
through
that.
our own
We
funds.
could use some
But
maybe some
then-
wastewater money.
It's part of our wastewater project.
Right.
It
Yeah, it could
definitely
be
is part of
part
that
of the waste-
cost.
Yeah, that's true. Ian.
And then the
Yeah.
subsequent stuff, as Carolyn was mentioning, is some sort of, if you have a developer do it, there's some sort of capital stack, and CPA funds might be a piece of that to subsidize the affordable units.
How big is the lot?
It's not that the lot is big, I
Just curious.
forget.
I mean,
I don't know.
I don't even think it's like 3 acres. I think there's a
Huh.
wetland on it that limits it too, but just the grandfathering alone. And those are, I guess what I also wanted to say, those are not typical duplex units. They're absolutely huge. Each single unit is huge and could be broken up into at least 2, maybe 3
Okay.
in some cases.
And to Rich's point about bonds, the CPC committee, I forget exactly when, but 8, 10 years ago, purchased a number of pieces of property that we now have through the town as affordable housing through the bond process.
Yeah.
And then what they
Smith Road.
do is they dedicate a certain amount of CPA funding every year to pay the debt service. But it's a
Okay.
great way to
Yeah.
Maximize.
leverage the CPA
Yes,
money,
leverage.
particularly in the time when interest rates are at good levels.
hopefully getting better.
Well, the final on the bottom three, the 3 there that we started on Beach Plum, would be right at the moment, we own the property. And we have a septic.
And we have a
Or-
tenant in the house.
We have a tenant in the house and we're looking to get 4 more units in the back, whichever design we
That's right.
use, and it fits. And we need to, but that funding would come from, we could do a bond from the town, or if we wanted to make some of it affordable under the capital A affordable and try and look for CPA funds or whatever, but it's basically likely, we're thinking about workforce type housing there, right?
We're trying that. And I think there are some things in the new housing bill that I just looked at today that might be attractive. They talk about, 1 to 4 units of housing. There's money set aside for those. So what I'd like to do on that one is see if we could squeak by with some of the capital funding we have now, just to do the architectural plans from 25% to 100%. That way they'd be ready, we'd be ready to go out to bid, but we wouldn't actually go out to bid because we won't have a funding source and we don't want to ask town meeting for that right now. So, but to be ready, shovel ready is awesome when there are other funding sources available. So.
Okay.
Personally, I like the design with all of it in the back behind.
I do too.
Because
Yeah, I didn't think
you
I
don't wanna
would, but
put
I do.
anybody on Route 6.
Right.
No.
put 'em
Housing.
behind,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
behind.
it is a brilliant design. I have to say, SV Designs did this. And when you look at it from the road, it looks like there's a little, maybe a wing on the house. It doesn't really, the
Translates
first
separate.
house
Yeah.
covers the second house and he has entrances on, the front and the side. So there's no entrances going in the back where the abutters are. It was just, I think it's beautifully designed.
Well, thank you. I apologize to everyone, we're taking so much time on
No.
that. I'll sit back now.
So we pay you the big bucks.
Yeah, I get the
Our
big
attorney.
bucks, right?
Suzanne?
I would love to continue to move forward with the things that we have in the works.
Mhm.
That one seems rather easy. I like the idea of the ADU assistance program because my understanding of it is that before really you could go to the bank to mortgage against your property, you need to get all of this engineering site work done.
Yes.
And at least for my family, that was like the non-starter right there of like, where am I gonna, like, could mortgage the property, but I would need $5,000, $10,000
Just to find out.
just to find out what it would
Yes.
be and so on and so forth. So I think that that is probably going to be a useful
Mhm.
incentive. The lease to local program, I would love it to be more than a year. I'm interested in stably housing people, and a year lease is not stable housing. Even 3 years isn't really like stable housing. You have 3 years to plan or maybe do something different, but it goes by so quickly. And I don't want to put people in a position where they're like, sweet, I finally found a year-round rental, and then, oh, I have to move again.
But I think we'll have the benefit of soon, like even if we could start this, if you say so, as early as like the spring.
Mhm.
But we'll have the benefit now of what's happened in other places.
Yeah.
And what happens, I think, is that the confidence for renters is built up so that the landlords have more confidence. And once they do it
Feel
and they're
comfortable committing
making
to more
a
than one.
good amount of money and they don't have to do the cleaning and the turnovers and then I think they might convert over. And I think that's the hope of it. We'll see from the statistics when we get them from other communities.
Yeah, I think we heard, I think we might even actually have some of the
Yeah.
statistics, but informally, we heard that, the conversion rate to maintaining the year-round rental in year 2, even without subsidy, was pretty strong.
Okay.
So
And
And we can do, I
that
mean,
would be the transfer into the
Yeah.
rooted rentals
Right.
program.
So would it just be
so we could
1
still give
year,
them some subsidy.
and then maybe the subsidy wouldn't be every single subsequent year? Is that?
Well, if they then joined the rooted renters program, then there might be another subsidy,
Okay.
The problem is committing to this for multi-years when you only have
450.
a fixed amount of money, right? So we
can't
don't have a
put people
dedicated
in
funding source, so unless we carve out some sort of, tax levy space or some other funding source to have it
Yeah.
go, it's hard to plan in multiple years unless you use, you cost down what you plan to do year 1 just to accommodate a second year in which you might influence how successful you are in year 1, so.
What was the idea that if you would pilot it for a year and then hopefully they would just keep on without the incentive? Is that the idea?
That's an idea. The other idea is that we would then get a recurring funding source to continue the program so that
Okay.
we could continue to recruit
and
keep
and retain.
and keep recruiting and retaining. Yes.
And that could work in conjunction with the ADU assistance program really well too.
Yeah.
Because now you're offering incentive to build a structure
Great,
that doesn't exist. And then you're also incentivizing that to be a year round.
Mhm.
Well, it would be deed restricted to be a year round.
And then if you,
Only if they take the
The
second, the second money,
Second
Okay.
the building money.
Okay. But you could, if they didn't take that, you could then look at the
Mhm.
lease to local program.
and our hope too is that we'll
I'm just
get
thinking about how they
some,
could weave together so that like each program helps the other
Right,
one
these-
builds,
yeah,
These
right.
programs could weave together.
right?
I can't resist. We were talking about this when we were, but if you had the lease to local, that's giving the funds to the property owner, the landlord, to
Right.
incentivize that. Obviously, we want the rents have to be, reasonable. We hope they would be, but even if still like
Right.
they match up with the renter, if the renter still had a gap, potentially they could enroll in the rental assistance program,
Right.
which is a 3-year program.
And then it helps.
Right, so then that could be a way, so there's ways to, the programs weave together for the landlord and the renter, but that would be a way, if it's successful, we get into a year 2, year 3 with the lease to
Mhm.
locals. Maybe that's where we can kind of make it so that the lease to local is a 3-year commitment, maybe,
Right.
Yeah.
because we have it's being bolstered by the 3-year commitment from the RAP program. And when the landlords see that, again, it's a steady,
Right.
it's a steady, even keeled way to rent the property and relieves a lot of headaches from doing the seasonal, the weekly turnovers and all that.
And then
yeah.
the hourglass 3 on the bottom, it gives us some time to get the data from CDP's consulting study and see what the market bears. And then if we have to, if we do the lease to locals program and we find that then successful, then we can package together some things to get a funding source for.
I think I like this, the ADU and lease to local possibly complementing each other, because the cost to build an ADU is really expensive at this
Yes.
point, and so
It's the
if
same as
this-
one of those
I
little
know, and
units. at
so
the-
like at this point, you're like, well, okay, most people I feel like are building it for family, because it wouldn't be affordable at that point if you wanted to put it on the market. So I'm into that. I will say I really like the idea of a housing buy down and the mortgage assistance program, because the cost per unit
Is less.
is significantly less. And then also, before the pandemic, I think Wellfleet did have some luck with that program at the lower cost. And
Yeah.
I worry that in like 5 to 10 years, we're gonna be like, oh man, we really should have done it when it was $200,000, because now it's more. And so I'm glad that you guys are interested in it, and I hope we
Oh my
find a way
God.
for those.
Yeah, the only reason it's on hold is
It's good
because
money.
the market changed so drastically
Yeah.
and we would have piloted it if we could have, but if you wanted, if we could get, the way I look at it, if with this money, we could get 10 year-round rentals through lease for locals and 5 ADUs, and it looks like we're keeping a good pace with the ADU development. So if we could get 15 new units of rental housing for the same amount of money that we'd pay for one
Yeah.
mortgage buy down,
Yeah.
I don't know, just for
And-
for that decision alone.
And it would be good to have them all. It's just we
Yeah.
can't fund them all.
Yeah.
So.
I guess I
We
feel,
want them all.
I do want them all. I just feel.
No, we
people's
need a
agree
benefactor.
with you. Yeah.
Anxiety about it.
We need a benefactor.
But funding is, funding is, as you go through the budget process and setting priorities for the town and for next year, funding is the issue.
Right.
These are all good programs
Yeah.
and we would like to do all of them.
That
One
really-
other program, not program, but opportunity that we have that the trust is beginning to try to explore is there is town-owned land, small parcels, very small parcels of town-owned land that maybe there are opportunities for public-private opportunities, so that it's not the town having to spend all of the money for the development for making the program happen and being responsible, as Jeff was saying, being responsible for the ongoing maintenance and management. So we're also trying to take advantage of what little pieces of land that we have. We had a really good workshop between the trust and the open space committee talking about parcels that maybe we could do joint projects.
Mm.
So we're trying to look at some of that. There's nothing to report on that now, but it certainly is an opportunity to try and move forward. Because little bits and pieces add up. Each one of these that we're talking about, a family is a family.
Yeah.
And, we're short, the new housing production plan, we're short 575 units. And we have the lowest SHI rate of anybody on the middle and, of the lower and outer Cape. So we're in worse shape, perhaps you could say, than some of the other towns. So even the onesies and twosies are going to help us while we wait for the bigger projects to come along. We don't want to be last anymore.
And the real estate transfer fee, that's dead. We're never.
For now.
Dead for now.
For now, but
Yeah.
they
This is
passed.
like the 3rd time it's been brought up, so
Yeah. Yeah.
eventually, I'm
Well,
sure.
they just did this big whole thing, so it seems like it'd be hard to get it in next year.
They want to see what it's going to look like.
But again, I know that there are going to be some great opportunities for us because we are poised in so many different ways. There's a whole piece in the new housing legislation about mixed use, mixed income development, both, that will be perfect for tea time in Town Center Plaza. So, there's a lot of opportunities. We just don't know when those are going to drop and how much funding will be spread across the state on them. But if we're ready to pivot in any one of those directions, and I think we will be, then, we'll be able to take advantage as they come up.
Yeah, I think we will have 3 projects that are shovel ready. If we proceed with the plans and the documentation, we'll have programs in place that could be bolstered, and we'll have the zoning in place for the tea time in the north. And so those are important components when we're gonna have to, get into grant rounds and try to vie for this. This is all the pre-work to get us set.
So what do you need from us
Yeah, what do
tonight?
you need? Yeah.
I mean, I think we all agree we like the sort of, you lay that out as priority list. We all seem to like the rank, the order.
Beside the money printing.
But
press.
yeah, we just need
So
a
we'll come
printing
back,
press.
we'll come back at your next meeting with some
Okay.
details.
Sound good to everyone?
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This is a lot of
Thank
work.
you.
and
It's a lot of,
Nice job.
Sorry,
lot of
kept
heavy
you long.
lifting.
No, this is great. It was
Yeah.
easy to digest and understand the different programs. So thank you.
Thank you.
I think I would recommend a motion to adjourn the Affordable Housing Trust meeting. All in favor?
Thank you
Sure,
so
thank
much.
you.
We're adjourned.
Fine.
I'll just wave bye to you. So.
Right.
All right, next we have administrative matters, Timothy Smith loan procedures.
Oh, yes.
Jackie, you want
Yes.
to do a hard right turn here?
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking about
Nope.
Timothy Smith. So I did discuss with Maya. Did I update the memo for you? Yes.
Updated.
It looks updated.
So we're going to, if we do what you wanted to do, which is to send letters to the 2 that we know still are local. We're probably going to try and locate a couple on the non-resident list that are in the area, we think. But most of these loans are very, very old. So we're going to do our best. The 2 that live in Eastham, with your permission, we will then add that
Sticker.
caveat that we don't give them stickers, licenses, or those kinds of
Permits, licenses?
privileges. Yeah.
Privileges.
And that'll include a dump sticker too, so. And what was the other thing?
Change the 0%.
The 0%.
Oh, the 0%, and then Mayo will come back to you once a year to check on the balance in the account and the percentage rate so that you can adjust that. She can also at that point give you a update on, how many loans are in repayment versus out. And then we're going to change the criteria to allow for post-grad education and certificate programs, as long as we have the funding to do so. So that'll be probably a decision we ask you to reaffirm every year too.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's a great idea.
Would that keep, just in that thought, the only question I have on that is we have 4 years. So I went to college 4 years, got a loan for 4 years, and then I want to go off to the law school.
Mhm.
Is the 4 years is prevents me from applying again, or are we going to extend that 4 years? It's 4 years for undergraduate and then we can go graduate. I don't know
think
what you
so,
want to
Jerry,
do.
because I think,
That's a lot.
but the point
I
is
just-
we want to spread it across more
what I
more
wanna ask.
people.
Yeah, no, it's a good
So if
question.
you take advantage of it all 4 years of undergrad.
Then you're
I've done, it's like my NC.
then you're kind of done. Or you can do it for your graduate school because
Eligibility.
there's
Not
less,
undergrad. Right,
I
less
used it up. I
opportunity.
can't
Yeah.
go be as.
Yeah.
be an
less
athlete.
funding available. And I also want to reiterate, we're going to probably in the springtime do some outreach so that people know we have
That
it.
it exists.
And it's also for, any kind of education. If
Yes.
you're
Adult
going to beauty
education.
school, if
Yeah,
you're
that's right.
becoming an
Yep.
electrician or those courses cost a lot of
To be
money.
a
So
university.
it doesn't have to be a college or a university.
Oh,
Go ahead.
the other thing was what you brought up.
I think that it's on here.
It's on there, we're gonna do-
Dispersed directly to the.
Yes.
Student, right.
Yep.
Okay.
But, my question was about the switching to the 0%. Is that active immediately? So for instance, if we approve Timothy Smith to people this year, or they would be.
They would be in the 0%.
Or
Because
someone is paying back.
it's the ones that go into collection. So right now, if any of those loans are in collection or are going into collection this next year, they would be at 0%.
Okay, thank you.
Do you need a vote?
Yes, to approve the,
Yes, please.
the policy, new
All right.
policy.
I move that we approve the new policy for the
That's great.
Timothy Smith loan as outlined in the memo from the town manager.
Second.
Right, any more discussion? Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0.
What a great program.
Yeah.
Just a phenomenal program.
Awesome.
You did.
So we have some
You don't need to do
fire
any-
department surplus items.
Yes, and I think the chief put a memo in.
Yes, we have it.
I
just have
move
to
we
declare,
accept the
yeah.
surplus items. Do we need a motion?
Yep.
Yep.
We have to make them surplus.
I,
Need a second?
Oh, I'll second it.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0. All right, Tom McNamara, did you speak to him by chance?
Did not get to speak
Can
to him
we,
today.
I want to hold off on this until somebody talks to him.
Okay.
Who's the liaison? Are you?
Yeah, I am.
Will you
I've
schedule
written
a
to him, but I will get in
Okay.
touch with him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Issue according to the letter.
Right,
but-
and
was a
it might
schedule.
be easily overcome.
Well, I don't like Thursday meetings either. I yelled at Rich because of that. It's like, why did
Okay.
they decide
Thursday's
to
a
move it to
weekend.
Thursdays?
Again.
I don't know. We will, I will talk to Tom
Thank
and I
you.
will talk
'Cause,
to
yeah, I
to
think he's
Mary
a,
and
he's a
to Peter.
Right.
good asset on that committee.
He is. He's also, though, he stepped up on the
He's-
presidency.
Yeah,
Right,
but that wasn't his
that
reason.
wasn't in his
No,
letter.
I know,
I will talk to him
Good,
directly.
thank you. Thank you, Jerry. Town managers report.
Okay, so, I don't think there was anything. I wanted to reassure you that we are working on the library, even though it's still raining in the library and every fix we've tried hasn't worked. And I want to go back and reiterate, I did speak to a resident. Thank you. I did speak to a resident who is a structural engineer and we have 3 written reports. 2 of them are from a world-renowned structural roof engineer. Okay, so it is not that we have not tried to fix this. It is not like we haven't asked both the architect and the construction company to pay for all of those things because they have paid a portion of all of those costs. NASA Construction has redone the roof twice in that area. So this is a problem that we are chasing and I'm very sorry for it, but if it was simple to fix, we would have fixed it. And it's a very distressing problem for the library. It's still a beautiful, well-built facility that the town is going to enjoy for many, many years. So I understand the issues online and poor library staff that have to deal with it right now, but we are working on it. We're going to do a job fair 10/16 at the library. We do have quite a few jobs open and we're recruiting for all the way from a natural resource officer, and that's going to be a basic entry-level position, not a more advanced position. To the new community development planner, to lots of positions at the DPW. And again, we're willing to train or help people get the licenses they need. Flu clinics coming up October 23rd. That's a big one. And the Eastham Tax Aid Program is available for eligible seniors, and people need to get their applications in to the assessing department by next week. And the assessing department will help you fill those out or assess your eligibility. So don't be shy. There's two things that I wanted to talk to you. One is about our dangerous dog. So the update on the dangerous dog, I didn't want to put this in the report, but it's
Plural? Singular. You have our attention.
dogs, dangerous
okay.
dogs. Yeah. The dangerous dogs are no longer living in Eastham.
Mhm.
We don't know where the dangerous dogs are living. The family is saying that they have relocated. They have pulled their child out of school. There is no school registration. Our attorney would like to know whether we want to continue to enforce or we want to put this on hold until we figure out where the animals are.
Would be nice to know where they are.
We've tried. They're not
Hey,
cooperating.
is
with
it-
us.
Is it legal for them to not disclose that in a new location that they're in, that these dogs were deemed dangerous?
Not if it's in Massachusetts. The order is throughout the state of Massachusetts.
So if they're somewhere else, that community should know.
It's starting over. Yeah, they're starting over.
If they move to.
We don't know where they
Well-
are, so I can't notify a community.
Gotcha. But if they are in Massachusetts,
Then we can
we can
notify
notify the community.
Yes.
Right.
Do we have
And our
any?
job would be just to notify.
So just so you know, I mean, the attorney's been looking, that costs money. Our dog officer obviously has been
What about
going out
the
and looking.
clerk's office as far as
Voter
voter
registration?
registration, because when they register in Massachusetts in another town, it shows up, I believe, at the clerk's office.
Yeah, they have to take them off the roll.
Right. It's something comes up in the, the
But-
list that notifies our clerk that they're registered somewhere else in
But
Massachusetts.
can I back up? Is
Sure.
your concern, though, is about the dogs being in some other
Right.
community and warning them, not
No.
us trying to
No,
go
no, no,
after
no.
Right.
them for fees or
Right.
charges?
Well, both. I mean,
Well, what
What fees
what
can we get after?
fees? could we
Well,
get
I
out of
think
the
it's
town?
like $350 a day, but we have to actually collect that, and that's not
But that's if they're living here and out of compliance.
right. But not reporting to us is considered out of compliance.
I
That's
see.
why the attorney's asking for advice, because he's saying, we pay him $225 an hour. And he's saying, do you want me to continue to use my time to find a dog that's no longer in your town? And we know it's not there because Stephanie's been going out weekly to look for them and they're not there.
We
So
don't even know when.
they left almost right away, the end of, right after the
Soon as
court
lost-
decision.
lost the court decision.
Yeah,
I would say at least try to locate them.
okay.
But as far as collecting the fees for noncompliance, since they haven't been here, I can't see that that's
okay.
I think
something
it would
worth
be,
pursuing at this
iffy.
time. Yeah.
you
might
know,
be
it's like an
sketchy, yeah.
iffy pursuit.
Right,
It's like,
right.
technically we could do it,
Right.
but I don't know if we would ever actually get it. And I don't want to waste money if we can't get it back.
But if they're in Massachusetts, we definitely need to notify the other town.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the school agreement, they have given us 30 days to turn
October
that
31.
around. Yes. And I just discussed it with both Peter and Kim, Orleans and Brewster today, and all of us agree that they've had a year to do this and we would like 90 days to do our response because we met with council for the first time today on it. The three of us town managers are going to meet with her in a month once she gives us her take on the legalities of the changes they want to make. Jerry, I sent all of our stuff to
Well,
her.
and
She's
some-
very
I
impressed.
didn't look at the legalities on some, I have.
Well, that's
fees,
their
so
job. So
that's
they're
right,
gonna
it's not
do
mine.
that. They're gonna go through the DESI regulations and do that.
That's wonderful.
But what I would like to know is if you would, we think that there should be 3 representatives from each town, not 2, on the committee
Right,
that
mhm.
reviews the agreement. And
Yeah.
thinking that you could either have one of you, 2 of you, or you and someone else that you appoint plus me, and we would go together to do that
Oh,
negotiation.
in the negotiations, not on the committee. Oh, I understand.
Yeah, maybe like
I know 2 representatives on the on working on the committee.
Yeah, the
I
working
understand.
group, whatever they're calling it.
Whatever it is, yes.
So like a select board, maybe a finance.
No,
committee.
you don't have to do that, but can you, are you in agreement that 3 is better than 2? I just think, we
Yeah.
think that,
Yeah, I
You
agree.
don't want to do it, I'm gonna.
all right.
A number of reasons I didn't.
But
go to
maybe a
law school.
FinCom, if there's a FinCom member interested.
Yeah, but
would
they
that
don't-
be-
I think that's good for us. I don't know if that's good for other towns. So I
Oh.
don't think we want to make it specific,
see.
just general.
Oh, I'm just saying for us.
Yes, for us, I think it makes perfect sense.
I'm fine. I've spent enough time on it.
No, but
Yeah, no,
are you
you're-
fine with me sending a letter saying?
Yes, I'm fine with it.
Yes,
We
sounds
need
great.
3?
I need
Okay.
3, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yes.
All right,
Okay.
excellent.
Just telling me you have to control Jerry, so you need another one on.
And we already said that Rich's report's going to be on the website.
Right.
Yes.
I think that's it for me.
Okay.
Sorry, I had 2 more items, but
On the new and upcoming, we have Rich's sheet on
Oh,
upcoming items and
if Kayla can add that to every single agenda, that's so, cause I was like, they sent me it, they gave it to me, it was in paper,
Yeah.
and then where'd I put it?
Yeah.
I like
mean
that
to
it-
the packet.
yeah,
To
to
the
have
packet.
to
Gonna
put
keep it in
every
the packet.
I love it in the packet.
It's great.
great.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mhm.
And
very
Kayla's not
helpful.
here, shoot.
Can I
Suzanne?
request an agenda item?
I already asked
Oh, you already
Jackie
answered?
about
Okay.
the, yes,
Okay.
the 0 to 3-year-old,
Report, just a
for
report. I
how-
mean, it could
yeah,
be the
for,
whole
family
program
support
report,
Yeah, we'll give you the
program and
whole,
the
whole thing, you
rundown.
know.
Yep,
there's a lot.
it's great. It's great. Glad it's being used. That was the
No
goal.
doubt. No, I think we're almost at 300,000.
Oh, great.
All right, any other new and agenda items? Anyone have any? Okay, minutes, September 23rd.
I move we approve the minutes of September 23rd.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0. Other business, correspondence. Hearing none. Let's hear it, Jerry.
I move we adjourn.
Again, thank you for your patience.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
7:30.